here with another foundation review, and I'm going to review the LA Girl Pro Coverage HD foundation. Actually, it has a lengthier title than that. The LA Girl Pro Coverage HD High Definition Long Wear Illuminating Foundation. Bit of a mouthful. I don't know why they say HD and high definition, because that's what that means. So here is what it looks like. This is a very different type of foundation that I'm used to. Personally, I'm used to a matte foundation. This claims to be an illuminating foundation. I'll quickly read out some of the claims on the back. So it's medium to full coverage, smooth, long wearing, flawless looking finish. I have the shade Porcelain. It comes in on the LA Girl website. This is actually American, but is slowly creeping into Ireland. On the LA Girl website, I think it's actually 16 shades, including a whitening shade, so the whitening version can be pumped into any colour to make it lighter. Then on Beauty Bay, which actually ships internationally, they do 15 shades and it's €13.10 from Beauty Bay. Personally, where I bought it from was from Trend Beauty. I'll leave their link below. They're an Irish company, so I like to support Irish when I can, plus it got here faster. It has 11 shades available and it's priced at $10.95, so a very, very reasonable price from Trend Beauty, so that's where I bought my one. So as per all my foundation reviews, I'm going to show you the application, I'm going to do time tests and tell you my thoughts. I have heard that this is a dupe for the Makeup Forever HD foundation. I think this has actually been replaced by the HD Ultra. I'm going to go on to the next part of the video, the application, and I'll mumble a bit then and tell you a bit more about foundation. So packaging wise, I absolutely love the packaging. It's plastic, very sleek looking. Does it look familiar? It probably will look familiar because this is the Makeup Forever HD foundation. They're virtually the exact same packaging. They actually perform quite similarly as well. Packaging is the exact same. Love it. It has a pump applicator. In here it has 28 mils, so you're getting 28 mils of product. Actually, just for comparison purposes, the Makeup Forever one actually contains 30 mils, so you're getting 2 mils less, which sounds tiny, but I suppose it would be a few pumps extra or a few pumps less. But I love the way it looks, love that it has a pump. Yeah, so that's the packaging. I'm also actually going to show you quickly how it pumps out. It's actually quite liquidy. So as you can see there, it is running down my hand a small bit, so it is actually quite a wet foundation. It's actually fairly light, so it does blend out very easily, but it's quite light, so it shouldn't feel heavy on the skin. So for this video, the shade that I'm going to be using is Porcelain. Okay, so I'm all ready for application. I've just moisturised today. When I do foundation reviews, I tend not to use a primer because I just want to test the foundation. So any review that I do probably can be enhanced with a powder and a primer. But today I just have moisturiser on. I have the shade, I've probably talked to you already about the shade. The brush I'm going to use to apply is from Blank Canvas. This is the F08. I do also have a damp beauty blender. I'll see how it goes, so I'll just pump with the brush first and see how we go. Okay, so one pump gives that much, and I'm going to apply, I'll start with the side of my face just to see how I feel about it. I should grab a mirror actually. I should start by saying actually I do have a bit of redness. You might be able to see I do have a bit of redness around my nose, and here I've had a bit of a reaction to something, and I do have some spots to conceal there, so I kind of like having something to work with when I do foundation reviews. Okay, so straight away, it kind of smells a little bit chemically. Where has it gone? Nothing too overpowering, but it does smell a bit chemically. Shade wise, this is a bit yellow for me. Not too bad though, but it's definitely not. They could do with a lighter shade, to be honest. It looks very wet looking as I'm applying it. Just bring it up to my... Okay, it doesn't seem to blend very well. Oh, no, it's blending okay, but kind of where you place it, that's where you need to pat it in. So I'm kind of just stippling it on first. Yeah, it stays quite wet looking, which I'm actually not used to because I'm used to matte foundations. But it is covering up the redness. So when the foundation is a bit yellow like this, I suppose the good point about it is that it covers redness. So I'm just going to keep on blending. Okay, so there is this half of my face with foundation. It's not high coverage anyway, because it's very natural looking. So if you're looking for like medium coverage, natural looking, it's not really applying, sorry, was I blocking you there? It's not really applying properly to my cheeks. I feel like I need to go in with the second layer. That was one full pump from my one side of my face, and I feel like it's not covering my cheeks properly. It does stay quite wet. It stays, yeah, it still feels a bit tacky, so I'll leave it dry and see how it sets. One thing I have noticed is that the hairs on my face, because it stays kind of wet, I feel like the hairs on my face kind of stand with it or make it more obvious. I'm not sure. Okay, I'm going to go with the other side of my face with the beauty blender just to see how I feel with a beauty blender. So again, I'm just going to do a full pump because it seems that that's what I need. So I'm going to do a full pump. There we go, and I'll apply that to the left side of my face. Okay, so there we go, applied with the beauty blender. I definitely way prefer it with the beauty blender. And I usually love using brushes, but in this, I think it's because it is a bit of a wet foundation. The sponge seems to blend it in much nicer to the skin. I don't have the same problem with my hairs on my face I did with the brush strokes. So definitely I would recommend using a sponge with that. I'm actually really surprised because I'm really more of a brush person. Yeah, the coverage is better with the sponge also. I feel like it just pushes into your skin better. As you can see, it hasn't fully concealed my spots, so I would need to cover those with concealer. I'm not sure if I'll do that today actually because I kind of want the foundation to do the work. So what I'm going to do is do a tiny little pump just to do the little bit of redness I have here and up here. It's just like a quarter of a pump just to do that. Just to get that extra, sorry I keep covering you. Okay, it doesn't fully cover them, but it kind of, I'm not too uncomfortable with them showing for today. But if you are kind of spot prone, I would say you would need a concealer because it doesn't seem to be covering them fully at all. So it's not a full coverage concealer. Okay, so I'm just going to pat over this side because I don't like the effect that the brush strokes give. Okay, so that's how it's looking. It is now 9:30 on the dot. That's perfect timing. So I'm going to apply the rest of my makeup and tell you how I feel about how products layered on top. Okay, so I've finished applying the rest of my products. So here is the finished look. Now I haven't powdered my face. I have contoured and used highlight, but I haven't set the foundation itself because any review I do of foundation, I don't set it just because I want to see how the foundation itself performs. Looks really nice. It's much different than what I'm used to. I kind of opt for more matte foundations, and this is definitely not a matte foundation. It's, if anything, it's actually quite dewy, which I'm not used to, but I'm really actually liking it. I'm not used to it, but this could mean good things. I felt like I wanted to set my chin and my nose because I feel like I will go a bit oily, but I didn't. So I really like the effect of it. Applying powder products on top, I feel like it looks fine. It doesn't look unblended or anything, I don't think, but I would be careful when you are applying powder products. You need to kind of blend a bit extra because the foundation, I feel, it stays a little bit tacky, small, but not disgustingly, but it does stay a bit wet on the skin, so you have to be careful when you're applying products that they don't kind of like stick. You really do need to make sure you blend properly, but in saying that, it doesn't look muddy on the face, but it did take me a little bit of extra time to blend in powder products on top of it. It has dried a bit more. When I applied it first, it was very tacky feeling and I was thinking, oh Jesus, I'm definitely going to have to powder this. It does dry a bit more, so it's still slightly tacky feeling, but nothing disgusting. So I'm liking the way it looks. Okay, so I'm quickly going to show you what it looks like up close. So I'm going to zoom you right in, which is always a bit awkward. So there is how it's looking. So it definitely has a dewy finish. It doesn't look cakey. It looks a little bit, I had a bit of highlighter here on top of my lip. It looks a little bit funny. I feel like if I just tap it in, it's not too bad. But there it is up close. So like I mentioned, I use the shade Porcelain. MAC wise, I am an NW15ish. It's a little dark for me, so I did have to bring it down my neck. I think this is the light shade you can get. There is a white version available for lightening them. I don't have that, so I think the Porcelain is the lightest shade. It's fine though, it's wearable. I'm all rashy in my neck, that's from something else. It's been on my face now for about 15-20 minutes and it hasn't oxidized, which I'm really happy about because some foundations do oxidize badly. So I'm glad that this didn't, because if it did oxidize it would actually be too dark for me. So porcelain is actually fine. I also mentioned that I definitely do prefer the sponge than the brush. That's kind of just personal preference. I was really surprised that I prefer the sponge because I normally am a blush person, or a brush person, but I just found because the foundation is quite wet, I felt like the brush left brush strokes. Now if I continued stippling it probably would have been okay, but I was doing both to see. When I stippled it was fine, when you brush it did leave brush strokes. So that's why I prefer the sponge. I know Ashton from Dramatic Mac actually preferred it with the brush. She felt it gave more coverage. So it's just kind of personal preference depending on your skin type, etc. So it is now almost 11:30, so it's 2 hours since I applied the foundation. So yeah, 2 hours since I've applied the foundation. Let's take an up close look. Okay, so I think I'm going to zoom you in a little bit. Okay, it looks pretty good. I'm kind of shiny on my chin though, which I do not like, but it doesn't look out of control shiny. And it's kind of only if I tilt my head up, so I'm not going to be walking around like this. The rest of me is actually looking pretty decent. No caking around the nose yet, which I'm surprised about because that's always where I tend to makeup tends to break up on me. Okay, so far so good. I'm actually very surprised. I thought it would be a bit more clumpy or oilier looking by now, but it's actually not. Okay, so 2 hours in, we're looking very good, so I'll check back in another few hours. Okay, so it is now 2:30, so the foundation has been on for a good 5 hours. And now, as you can see, I am looking, I'll just zoom you in, a lot shinier. It actually looks shinier in person than on camera, but I hope you can see I'm very shiny here. I'm very shiny in a T, like down the centre and even across my cheeks, which I normally am not. But I can see my pores a lot more, it's that shiny. So I would not be comfortable going around like this. So what I'm actually going to do now is buff it in. I'm not going to apply any more product, but I am just going to buff it in. Okay, so there it is. It looks better buffed in, but I still feel like it's too shiny for my liking. So at this point I am going to try to powder it. Now to powder it, I'm not going to use a mattifying powder because I feel like that defeats the purpose of a dewy foundation. So I'm going to use this Bourjois setting powder. It is the Bouderies de Java. I don't speak French, but basically this is a really good kind of illuminating loose powder, so it doesn't necessarily mattify, but it is a powder, so it will set your foundation. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to just apply it with a fluffy brush, a Real Techniques fluffy brush, and hopefully that will just kind of set it in place. Okay, so that has brought it back to normality. I do have to say though, it didn't actually break up, which again I'm surprised about. It has stayed in place, it just came across very shiny in my face, but it didn't actually break up. A tiny bit of creasing near my nose, 1 second now. Perhaps a tiny little bit of creasing on the nose, which is what I'm used to, but it's very minimal. So the breakup is actually more or less non-existent. I'm really impressed with how it's staying on my skin. So now that it's powdered, I'm going to go about my day and I'll check back in later on. So it is now 6:15 in the evening, so I've had the foundation on for a good 8 hours, which is what I typically like to review foundation because that's a typical working day. And here it is at the end of the day. Now, as you can see, I hope, will I zoom in more? I am quite shiny on my forehead there. It has worn away quite a bit on my chin. My nose isn't too bad. It has worn away around my nose, but it hasn't become clumpy or anything like that really. It's actually worn away quite evenly, which I'm happy about. But I am looking quite shiny, so you definitely, if you have oily skin, normal to oily, I do think you would need to powder this foundation just to set it. Even on touch, we'll say now if I go like this, like there's a residue on my finger there now, I'm not sure if you can see, but there is a residue on my finger. So it does transfer also, so I definitely think you do need to set this foundation no matter what your skin type is. I feel like this does need to be set because it does stay tacky. So I don't like the feeling of it, the wetness on my face, and it does transfer. So those are the downsides, but for a dewy foundation it actually has lasted really, really well. I feel like this would be really nice in the winter months when you want that dewier effect. Yeah, so it's kind of worn away here and around my nose. Everywhere else seems to be okay, maybe a bit of worn away here. That's obviously if I had my hand here during the day, just normal day-to-day wear. Also, I didn't use a primer with this. Maybe a primer would help this also, but I feel like I would need to touch up during the day. So after 5 hours, it does start to break down a bit. But overall, really, overall opinion, I actually quite like it. But I would need to powder it. I do want to stress that. I'm not sure if I said this earlier or not, but this is definitely not full coverage. It's more of a medium coverage. It's not hugely buildable, like with any foundation, it's slightly buildable, but you won't build, I don't think I can build this up to a full coverage foundation without it feeling cakey. It feels fine on the skin, but I feel like if I were to go in with another layer, it would make it feel cakey. So there you go, those are my overall thoughts on the LA Girl Pro Coverage HD foundation. If you've tried it, let me know. It's very good value for what it is. It's actually very good value. $10.95 and Trend Beauty is where I bought it. I'll link international sellers like Beauty Bay and stuff like that down below also. Love the packaging of it, and I really like, it's very different for me because like I said, I always wear matte foundations and it has lasted quite well. So those are my thoughts on foundations. If you do have any more queries, leave a comment below and I shall see you in my next video.